not their mess. Okay? It's our choices. So kind of get there. Decide what it is you want to do. For me, that was something that I wasn't going to do. We had already been through enough. All the way around the board, we had already been through enough. Happy Self Love Sunday, ladies. I hope that you're doing well. I hope that your journey is going well. So, listen, I am coming today completely open, vulnerable, and honest. Like, I was totally prepared to do a like bring it all together because we started this month off talking about fitness and getting ready for 2021, and then we moved into nutrition and food and my methods, and then we talked about mindset last week, and I was all prepared to bring it all together, and then just like life does, it just started hitting me left and right. And just to be completely honest, I didn't think I was gonna be able to like show up today. um it's just a lot coming in the same week. So, it starts off with a bang, with my ex being in the hospital, and of course, we've been divorced for years, but him and I have both been through some pretty traumatic um, traumas together. So my mindset is always this, and I pray that when I say this, that it's gonna help other couples that are divorced or separated that have children. My mindset is solely this: my kids, because my kids happen to live through really well. The oldest living son got to live through the tragedy of me being pregnant and then losing my son, Kenneth, at 6 months old. Going to the hospital and delivering, and then having to have a funeral, because I did. When he was born, he did breathe, but then he passed away. So living through that, and then in 2010, all of the kids got to experience the loss of their older brother Sahad, who, it just so happens, birthday is tomorrow. So imagine that emotion on top of everything else that's going on, right? So watching my children go through those tragedies, I can still remember what their faces look like when I had to tell them that their brother had passed away. I can still remember the feeling of, how are we going to get them through this? Because, of course, you don't think about yourself in those moments, you think about them. And, I just living through all of that and watching their faces, watching their emotions from the time that we told them that he had passed away until the actual funeral. And then just watching the range of emotions and how it changed each kid. Because after that happened, each one of my kids, and there were six altogether when he passed, it left five, each one of them went through their own um, experience, within themselves. Although, yes, I'm all about, and you hear me talk about all the time, I'm all about therapy. And they went to grief therapy, um, after their brother was killed. But, just still, watching them walk through that, watching them change. I got to see my daughter, who, Alexis, who's in her senior year of college right now, who's the closest to my son. I got to see her do like a total like 180. Like, it was just like, wow. Watching how she changed. And as a parent, the only thing you can do is help try to guide that, right? So you get the therapy, because that's important. I'm going to tell you right now, we have to get away from that therapy isn't helpful. It is. You got to get them into grief therapy. And then the youngest two, their school actually had a grief group, which was so awesome. And they were actually a part of that. And then at the end of the grief group, they did like this video, and there was pictures of our oldest son and the family and all that other stuff. So as parents, we got to watch them walk through that. So now we're getting, after all of it, because we get divorced after his death, right? So we're going, that's our thing. It has nothing to do with them. That's our personal thing. And the problem with us as humans and as adults is we're so wrapped up into our feelings and our emotions and what they did and what she did. They forget that these little people that they're responsible for, these souls that they're responsible for, that your higher spirit gave to you to guide, right? They have to deal with that too. So you can't get into this mode of attack and anger and just craziness because it does affect them in so many ways. I'm not saying that you have to be buddy buddy. I'm not saying you have to talk every day, but I'm saying that you have to get to a place of understanding that this hurt that happens during divorce affects so many layers. So many layers. So it's funny because people who know us, they didn't even know we were divorced for years. It's like we didn't work out. Okay. But they didn't ask for this. So our jobs, parents, is to guide them as best we can. And then that means that if you have to be attackful and crazy, that means it's time for you to go work on you. It's time for you to take a step back and understand that regardless of whatever they did, you have control over you. You can go get help for you. That's what I did. I went to therapy. I was in grief therapy as well as, just generic therapy for the things that I was dealing with. I also had them in grief therapy. And also when we got ready to be divorced, we took them back, so they can learn how to maneuver between the two of us without choosing sides. And we had to learn to not put them in the middle. Because so many parents, you're walking around putting the kids in the middle. You're a grown mess. Stop delivering messages through your children. It's not their job. It's not their job. When you decide to marry your spouse, that was your choice. I'm sorry. It was yours. Okay, so however that ends, it's still your choice. It's still your thing to deal with. It is not theirs. It just isn't. And no, we don't have to shield them because I didn't shield them, right? But therapy helped them work through it. And then we talked about a lot of different things. And I let them kind of go through whatever emotions that it is that they had to go through. But throughout it all, were there times when me and their dad wouldn't see eye to eye? Of course. I mean, seriously, like there was times when you would have that. But what we would do is step back after we would get into it because it's real. Because I'm alpha. Like divorce or no divorce. Look, this is the way it's gonna be. Right? So I'm very alpha. So when that would happen, it would just be like, all right, we need to take a step back. We need to take a step back, maybe not talk for a minute, maybe not converse for a minute, right? He was always a great dad in terms of coming to pick them up and spending quality time with them. I'm just going to tell you the type of mother that I am. Everybody's different. Everybody has a different walk, okay? As for me, I've been very blessed to work on a job that provides, well for us. Okay. Not rich by any stretch of the imagination, but it provides. So when we got divorced, it wasn't like, child support and alimony and all that stuff. Listen, I wanted peace. I wanted peace in my heart and I wanted peace in my mind. I felt like for me, if he was going to care for his children, he was going to care for his children. I wasn't going to involve the state and all this other stuff. We were already dealing with the state with the death of our son and dealing with the court system. And it took them 5 years to find the boy that actually, murdered him and going through. We were already in the courts enough. So my mindset was peace. And my mindset is also this, and because this helps me pull through, higher power. I was going to provide for my family because there was that strength that came with me, and I understood that there was something bigger, and I understood there was something larger guiding me, and that we were going to be okay. So I didn't need to put him through a ringer because I was upset emotionally about what happened between us, because that's why it happens. And am I saying that they shouldn't pay child support? Absolutely not. They should pay for their children. They should quality time with their children. So that's very important. But it's how you go about getting to that point. Do our men need to step up 100%? Ladies, listen. Yes. And I get that. But if they decide, whatever they decide to do, that's on them. But we can't spend our time and our energy and effort fighting that every step of the way. If you're going to go to court because you cannot be amicable, do that. But we don't have to tear down. We don't have to tell our kids that they're not this and they're not that. And he want to do none of that. They're going to see it for themselves. So do what you need to do. All the way around the board. Get yourself some healing. Get yourself some counseling. All the way around the board. Do what you need to do. But stop dragging them in this mess. It's not their mess. Okay? It's our choices. So kind of get there. Decide what it is you want to do. For me, that was something that I wasn't going to do. We had already been through enough. All the way around the board, we had already been through enough. Okay? I decided that my kids had been through enough. So I'm not going to keep dragging them down these roads. Just so happened that because of the tragedies that him and I had already been through with burying two sons, that he was going to be a quality dad. He was already a quality dad. Our marriage didn't work. That's us. As far as how we were as parents, completely different. So he, spent quality time with them because that's so important. I know, listen, I know kids have to eat and I know it takes money to do that, but I'm telling you, if the money isn't really necessarily there coming from them, please don't stop them from spending quality time with the kids, because I'm going to tell you something right now. That's the reason why I believe my kids are saying they're not perfect. They drive me crazy. And trust me, I was just yelling at them this morning because they're dirty, okay? Of their rooms, the bathroom, right? They do kid stuff. However, the reason why I feel that they are sane throughout the midst of the chaos of the world, the reason why I feel like my daughters are not hungry for a man and, desperate for love and attention, is because no matter what he did or I felt that he should have done better, I never interfered with his time with them. Never. The reason why my sons are the way they are and they have somebody to go to and talk to. They know how to stand up. They stand for their mother too. Don't get that twisted. However, they're thriving because of that relationship. You can't stand between that because of money. You just can't. And don't listen. When I say that my job provided, yeah, was I check to check? 100%. There was no extra. To the point where I went I worked 3 jobs at one point. I worked full time in the morning, a full time job at night, and still taught in the gym. So I'm not saying it's easy. And I'm not saying that it's fair. What I'm saying is my kids were worth that. What I could give to them, what I could provide for them, they were worth it. All that pain that they had already been through of losing their brother, and he was a wonderful, let me tell you something about Sahar. He was a wonderful big brother to them. He wasn't a perfect kid. I remember, because just so you know a little bit of the history, we were a blended family. So when I met my ex-husband, we were very young when we got together. I think I was like 18, almost 19 years old. He had already had 2 children, and their moms were kind of in the picture, but not. So his mother was not in the picture. So he had him, and so when I came to the picture, I became mom. It was like instant, like, mom thing. We never said that's my stepdad or that's my stepmom. It was our mom and dad, but that was our relationship, and we were able to do that, right? So no, he was not easy. Okay, when I came in, he was like, what, in 5th grade, I think, at that point, fourth grade, and man, it was not easy, right? Because he came with some things, because he was staying with his grandmother, which is his mother's mom, and they believed in medicating children and things like that. And I want to be clear that everybody has to do what's right for their family. For me and mine, I just didn't believe in medication. I believed in more of a holistic approach to life. So, they put him on medicine for ADHD. And so just imagine him coming now with someone who's more holistic. And, we had to wean him off of those drugs. And I was adamant about doing it. I was adamant about doing whatever that took, and didn't care all the time, didn't care what, right? We were going to work through that. And so that's what we did. And we just, honestly, we took the dyes and sugars out of his diet. We also put him into therapy to teach him how to calm himself when he would feel overactive. And a lot of times, it's, to me, he was being a boy. I have other sons, and he was, just being a boy, running around, being rambunctious, getting into things, and that's what they did. But we live in an environment where they feel that they need to be more controlled, to me. And I was just like, you know, he's being the boy. We're going to work through this. Okay. And that's what we did. And I just remember him going through, he had a hard time. And then, you know, you see that switch where he got a little bit better. And we lived at that time in inner city. And he got caught up. He made some mistakes. And I'll never forget it. You know, he made some mistakes and we had to like kind of work through that as a family. And I'm tough love. So, you know, it's like you know better because both of your parents work hard. We don't deal with certain things. We don't live a certain lifestyle. And if you decide that that's what you want to do, then you got to go and listen, you're going to suffer those consequences, right? And he did that. And then I'm going through a story a little bit quickly because, you know, we don't have a lot of time in this video, but I remember him, you know, kind of like coming out of it, and just seeing a little shift with him here and there because our relationship was rocking, you know, because I was being very honest, I was too militant. I was kind of raised that way. You know, we're Amazon women. So, you know, I was raised with a firm hand. So I kind of led with that firm hand. Not to mention I did go to the military. I was in the army. So I was very just and didn't know how to be balanced and in the middle. So, and these are the things that I learned later with my younger kids. And that's why they're a little bit different than the older ones. But, you know, I had to learn that, you know, I had made mistakes too. So I'll never forget the last time he got into trouble and he called me and we talked and I had to apologize to him too. You know, like I'm sorry. I was too young to kind of really be a mom at that point. I didn't know what it was to be a mother. Hell, I didn't even know what it was to be a wife. Hello, that's why I'm divorced somebody. Okay. A lot of times we don't want to admit that. We want to put it the blame on everybody else. But hey, listen, there were some things that I missed too, right? So we had that moment of, you know, apology and, you know, he had that thing where, you know, he was like, I'm gonna do better. And he came out and he did and he started doing better. We found out that his girlfriend was pregnant. And I'm gonna tell you this is my true personality right here, right? I remember them telling me, they were scared to tell me. There's a reason why. Like they'll tell their dad anything. And it's still like that to this day, right? They'll tell him anything, you know. He's the softer one, you know. Me, they're like, oh, we gotta get ourselves together before I go to her. You gotta go to her with a plan. You gotta go to her with like, okay, so did you make the choice what you're gonna do next, right? They know before you come to me, you better have it together. So they come and tell me that she's pregnant, and I was hot. I was like, didn't I tell you? Don't even bring me home a dog. Right at this point, he's like 24. So I'm like, didn't I tell you? Don't you bring me a dog? Like this. And I'm just doing me, right? Just going off, right? Like, boy. And I'm telling you right now, okay, you want to have a baby? Then there's no more you. You don't get nothing. The baby gets it all. So I'm going through all these things, right? And I'm just that was my personality, okay? Like, what, baby? You need to get your life together, blah, 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 blah. You know, whatever. So we go through all of that. And let me tell you something. I will never forget when it was like when he knew that little girl was coming and just to watch the change in him for me. Just to watch him go into that role of, especially when she was born, I was like, oh, he's going to be like his dad. Because his father is very, like, in his kid's life, very hands on, right? You can just tell. He wanted to be everything for her. And I'm looking at him like, oh my God, like, look at the change in him. You know what I mean? Don't say he won't get on my nerve. That's not what I said. What I said was the change in him. And I was so proud. Like, I remember him going out all the time. That baby came. He was like, I'm not going anywhere. You know, I'm going to be with her. And, just that, right? You know, that you can see that switch where I'm gonna mature more, right? And I'm growing to this, and he's like, I'm gonna go to Lincoln Tech, and I'm gonna do this, and you know, you could just tell he wanted to be everything for her. You know, that that change, right? And a part of that, he was everything for his brothers and sisters. I think that's where he got the practice at. Because I swear, my daughter that's right underneath him, Alexis, they were thick as thieves. Because I used to always be like, you got to watch your sister. Because me and his dad would get missing. When we were married, we would always run to the grocery store. We would always have somewhere to run to, okay? Really, we're just getting away from them. But that's not the point. You know, so he was always, you know, with her. They were just super duper close. I mean, and then, you know, we had, you know, Kamora, Antoine and him were like oil and water. So let me just back up because I'm going to give the stair step. Sahat was the oldest. Then it's Ashley. And then it's Antoine. then it's Alexis, then it's Kimura, and then it's Cameron. Okay, so the older three, they had their thing. Sometimes they got along, sometimes they fought. That was what they did, right? And then the younger ones, he was always like big brother to them. They didn't really fight as much because he was so much older than them. And he was just like, when they had an issue with me or their dad, they would talk to him. It was like, and I just the dynamics of that, right? So just imagine, him being there for them in that way as the big brother. And then, for him, the tragedy happened in December, for right before the holidays, right? So just let me give you this for a second, right? His baby had just, you know, been born. She was born in January, right? So January the year prior, and the very next year, he didn't even make it to her first birthday. In December, he was murdered. I will never forget that. I will never forget the call. I would never forget the feelings. I will never just, it's just something that stays with you. And let me tell you something. So he was murdered by gun violence. And, so I listen to people about, having guns and all this stuff. And it boggles my mind sometimes because I almost feel like if they had to walk a mile in me and his dad's shoes. And when I say Mark walk a mile, it's getting to that hospital, going in with uncertain. All you know is you got a call to say he was shot. You go in uncertain. Now I'm very, very spiritual. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm strong. He gonna be strong and he gonna make it because I'm strong, right? His father's more quiet. So we walking in and we have no idea. All we see is these kids sitting in the lobby. There's blood all over some of their pants. They're crying, they're doing, and I'm just sitting there, which felt like forever, right? They call us into a room and they tell us that he had been shot and they were working on him. So I remember asking the question, shot where, and they told us that he was shot in his chest. Now, meanwhile, he was still in that moment. I wasn't ready to like give up. I'm like, nah, he's gonna fight. And I remember asking him, could his father go back there? Because in my mind, because those two were so close, maybe if he knew he was there, that he would like, like really fight hard. So at that point, they take us back out into the waiting room, and we have to sit and we have to wait. And it felt like hours. I probably wasn't even more than 10 minutes. I remember seeing this police, bunch of cops coming in, right? And it was weird, but I wasn't focused on that. I just was like, it's got to be okay. So I remember them calling us back into the room, and there was the cop standing there, and it was weird. So my immediate reaction to them was, "Oh, did you come to tell us what happened to him?" Because I'm thinking, why would all these cops be in here, right? You must come to tell us what happened because we didn't know the story. Um, and the cop kind of gave this look like, "Oh, she doesn't get it, right?" And I just remember the nurse saying, he didn't make it. So in my eyes, just think about that for a second. I want you just to stay with me for a minute. Now I'm outside of the situation looking in. Just imagine that. We're at two African American parents, right? We're in this hospital with all these kids. Out in the waiting room. His girlfriend actually came in the room with us. I remember when she said it, she ran out screaming. I remember feeling numb, but I was just like, you had to have three officers in here to tell us that? What did you expect us to do? What did you expect us to do? Why would that be protocol? Why wouldn't it be, to have someone spiritual there? Why wouldn't it, like, what is that? What does that mean? Right? Just take that in for a second. We just lost our son to gun violence. What did you think we were gonna do? So then at that point, they tell us they want to take us back to go see him. So this is when I say walk a mile in my shoes. When you're talking about having all of these weapons and all these things that you just don't need if you're not using them to feed your family. I believe in hunting, and however you need to get your food. I'm not saying that. Okay. I'm not saying that. But this was in Edison, New Jersey, JFK Hospital. The hallway was dark. Okay. Long corridor. It just seems like it was like, this is this a hospital? Because it felt like nobody else was in there. And we're walking. Me and his dad, his cousin was with us. I think, because I was just like, and we were walking down this corridor. I'm telling you, it just felt like the walls were getting wider and it was getting darker. And then all of a sudden, we get to the back to this room, and we come to the table, and there was a white sheet on my head. I sat in the chair next to the bed, and he was swollen. He was just super swollen. But the one thing that I could see was, even though they had a sheet there, the gaping hole. And in my mind, I said, what the hell did they shoot him with? Like, what? What? Like that. And then I go into mom mode, right? Because I pick up his hand. And his hand was like kind of cold at this point. And his nails was dirty. And I was just like, oh my God, these dirty nails, right? Because it's just a natural mom thing for me. Because I'm very like, cleanly with my, just mom. And I don't know, in that moment, it made me human for a second. I couldn't even tell you that. But all I know is when you sit through that and you see that and you feel that, there is nothing in this world that his father could do to make me turn my back on him, on our family. Do you understand me? Like, money, and if he didn't pay support, what? Can you imagine that? Walk a mile in that shoe just for 1/2 a second. And I'm gonna tell you right now, what you will find is the things that y'all back and forth and battling about, it won't matter. And it shouldn't. What mattered is we gotta we are responsible for these other souls. And we gotta prepare them to hear this. Prepare them to feel this. Prepare them, because, for Cam, he was just a baby at that point, because, he's 15 now, but that was 2010, right? For his first real funeral. So I say all this to say that when you're given these responsibilities as parents, we're being trusted by a higher source to care for these souls. There are times when you have to stop thinking about you. You have to step back and give them what they need, regardless of choice. And I want to be clear too, because yes, I know my story is my story and everybody has a different story. This doesn't apply to the verbally or physically abusive parent. This doesn't apply to the very toxic, parent. So I understand that you have different dynamics for what you have to deal with. But even if you're dealing with that, make sure you take the time for you and those souls you're responsible for and get them the help that they need. Everything, and I'm gonna tell you this too. Make sure you go through a few therapists. Make sure you find the right one for them, because there's some out there that's not for them. I happen to have two beautiful therapists that worked with my children. And I'm going to tell you right now, one was Caucasian, the other was African American, because that don't matter when it comes to saving the souls of my children. Color don't matter. I just be real for a second. They gave them two opposite ends of different spectrums. That was wonderful for them, to help them come as whole as they could possibly be after this. Because after my son left, there is a hole in all of us that will never be fulfilled. So if you could just take a little bit from me. I know it's hard. Don't get me wrong. After, we got ready to divorce, that wasn't easy. I wasn't happy with him and he wasn't happy with me. You know what I mean? Like, it was rough, but they're worth it. My kids are worth it. They're lively, they're thriving. And Ashley's a mom. She lives in New York. She's raising her son well. Antoine, he's finally in his own apartment, because they had to remember they're the oldest, so they with him the longest, so they took it the hardest. So, he veered off and went to the left after my son passed away. And then I'm be very honest with you, he started drinking. We had to deal with that as parents, do what we need to do with that, get him in AA, whatever that took, right? We going to do that. I'm not an enabler, let's be clear, but I believe in helping my children. We got him on board. He's doing well. He's working and he's thriving. Alexis, she took it the hardest. And let me tell you something about Alexis. She was also diagnosed with ADHD when she was younger. She didn't know that until she graduated high school because I refused to tell her that. When she was going through things in school, they also told her, well, they told me, and it's in her paperwork, that she would never, like, she may not ever go to a traditional college and have these careers. All the things that the doctors told me when she was younger, like she would never be in a normal class. She would always have to be in classes where they had to help her. By the time she left Emmaus High School, she was in honors courses. She was not in the classes where she needed remedial help at all. She's thriving into sales. University, going for forensics because of her brother, right? It took them so long to find the person that murdered her brother, so she wanted to do something about it, so she got into forensic science. Okay. Then you have Alec Kimura, who again, she went completely silent after he passed away. Just didn't talk a lot at all. I kept her in travel cheer and we kept her going, and trying to get her to talk. And sometimes she would, and sometimes she wouldn't. She just would make faces or whatever. She just fell silent. And we kept working and kept working. And guess what? Now we can't get her to shut up. She's still thriving in travel cheer. She's also in her first year at Cedar Crest College going for nursing, right? And then we have the baby, which is Cameron. He is 15 years old now. I mean, after that happened, he had a series of panic attacks in the car because he had never understood what a funeral was. So we're at the gravesite, and now he's watching the casket get lowered, and there's dirt being thrown on his brother, and all he kept saying was, "My brother can't breathe. My brother can't breathe." And he was just going to these panic attacks, right? So we have, again, therapy, getting him walking together with him, regardless to how long it took, regardless to what me and his dad was going through. We walked him through it. Cam is in the 10th grade. 10th grade now. Cameron, he's the baby. Just work with us on him, okay? He's very intelligent though. Like he's into stocks. He knows everything about Bitcoin. But just getting him to stay focused is a whole nother job. Now, he wasn't diagnosed with anything. Cameron's just spoiled. Let's just be honest. He's just spoiled and just, he's more worried. He's cute. So he's like, I'm Cam. I look good. That's my baby. Don't talk about my baby, okay? So as you can see, and then even his dad, so I'm going to give you a little bit of him. So back in 2010, when our son was murdered, within that same week, we found out that he had cancer. So going through that depression, it was, him and his son, the best friends, right? Thick as thieves. So getting him through that, right? And he actually, did really, really well, was in remission for 8 years. In 2018, it came back. And this is the thing. 2018, his cancer came back. We have been divorced since 2011. And you think that I'm going to do what? That's my kid's father. If anything happens to him, I know what it looks like to my kids. No, I'm there. I'm right there. Left hand, no matter who I'm seeing, no matter what I'm doing. Why? The picture is bigger than us. It's them. If he's not okay, they're not okay. If he's not okay, they're not thriving in school. If he's not okay, they're not thriving at home. If he's not okay, they're not thriving in life. Do you understand me? It's not about us. I teach Self-Love Sunday. And I do love on myself throughout this, right? So I'll tell you what I do with me to help myself through it, right? But yes, I'm there. Doctor's visits. I have the history. I was married to him when all of it happened, right? So I'm there. When Monday, he went back to this past Monday, we had to go back to I'm there. Why? Because if I'm there, I'm the filter in between him and my kids. And not that I'm hiding anything from them. But I don't need them to worry until they need to worry. Okay? I know how to filter to help them keep going and thriving. It's important to do that for me. I'm responsible for those souls, no matter how old they are. So getting him, to a point where, he's doing better, we won't work on that. Now, me, very honestly, back in 2010, I wasn't nowhere near the self-love journey that I'm talking to you guys about. I was nowhere near there. Okay. So didn't even really wasn't really in just didn't know how to do any of the things that I'm doing now. So back then I didn't take care of me. I went into do mode. I went into take care of everybody, everything, everyone, just to make sure nobody's hurting, everybody's here, everybody's there. Whatever that took for me to do, I want to keep my kids as normal as possible. I want to be, I don't want them to lose their house. Their dad was on disability. Their brother just died. Funeral, right? Therapy. Okay, this one plays, one does travel cheer, one does travel softball, the other one plays baseball. Got to keep them normal. Okay, the other son is, he's drinking. Okay, fine, we got to get him in AA, right? My oldest daughter, she became distant because she was growing out the house at that point. Okay, how do I reel her back in? It was just all over the place. And it just so happened though is that I was into the gym, and I was teaching at that. I just started. I had just, as a matter of fact, I just became licensed to teach Zumba December 4th, 2010. So, okay, it's just a few days before this happened. So I was just getting started in that. But it was, looking back, the gym was my refuge. It was my therapy. I didn't know it at the time because that was the only thing I really had, right? So moving forward, as time went on, because I didn't really heal the feelings, I just, even the week of him passing, I was so busy doing that whole week, planning the funeral and doing all this stuff. His dad was allowed to cry all that week. The kids were allowed to cry all that week. Me, not so much. I was just get it done, get it done, get it done. It wasn't to his funeral when I broke down. Now his funeral, I was a complete mess. His dad was like stronger. I'm the one that's a mess, right? We just switched roles, but I really didn't really was focused on healing me at that time. It wasn't until I had a breakdown, I want to say like 2014, I really just had a full on just breakdown because my way of dealing with things back then was, oh, just put it in the back of my mind. I'm not going to think about that no more. Yeah, that didn't work. It all came rushing back. So that's when I really got focused on the self healing journey, self love journey. It started about that point for me. So even now, what did I listen? Throughout all of this, when I got the news that Monday that his dad to go to the emergency room, yes, I went to the emergency room and I did all that, and I'm making sure he's good, and I go to the hospital every day. Here's what I do though: I go to the gym every day. It's my therapy. It's my moment. Yes, all of this stuff is happening. It is. But I know that if I don't care for me, I know that if I don't care for my emotions, I know if I don't care for my feelings, there's going to be two things that happen. Either I'm going to go eat them all. And let me tell you something, that emotional eating, right? We can do that. But you don't feel better after you emotionally eat. Being honest with you, you don't. You feel good while you're eating it. Then after that, you feel guilty. So that don't work. So for me, it's the gym. I go to the gym every single day, even during this pandemic. Because this is the thing. Everybody want to tell everybody what to do. Look, I'm gonna tell you right now, and this is gonna sound rude, but shut up. Don't 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 tell me what the hell to do. Shut up. I'm going to the gym because you don't have my life. You don't have my walk. You're not walking while I'm walking. Okay, you ain't dealing with what I'm dealing with. Leave me alone. I'm going to the gym. Yeah, I wear my mask. Okay, leave me alone. I'm going to the gym because in that gym, I go to bar 3 actually. When I go, that moment of refuge, that moment of peace, I literally walk in the gym and everything that's happening in my life stops the moment I open the door. And I go in for that hour, sometimes 2. Like yesterday and today was 2 hours. And I take the classes, I do what I need to do. And in that moment, it's just caring for me. I'm not thinking about nothing and nobody else. And I'm freeing my mind. And the movement of my body helps me release all the tension and all the stress that's all through me. Through moving my body in a series of motions, I release all of it. And when I release, I become lighter. When I release, I breathe deeper. When I release, I'm able to feel without breaking. I'm giving myself the love that I need. Care for me. So that's one big thing that I do. And the other part is, you hear me say all the time, I'm very spiritual. I think there's a difference between religious and spiritual. I'm very spiritual. And I tap in to my highest source. I call on God. I call on the universe. I call on my guardian angels. I call on my ancestors. I call on my spirit animals. I call on them all to help me walk through this. I tell myself I am strong and courageous. I tell myself everything that I need to tell myself to make it through that day, that moment, that second of time. That's what I do. I actually, and then that sometimes I journal, you know? So that's how I love on me. That's how I'm able to keep moving forward. Everybody asks me, like, throughout all of this, how are you able to be so strong? Like, you're so strong, you do this. Listen, practice. In the beginning, I didn't know how to do it. In the beginning, I didn't know how to meditate. But I've learned to do those things. I've learned that those are the things that gave me my life back. Those are the things that keep me smiling when everything around me is crashing. When the kids are not cleaning because my house is a mess right now. Let me tell you something right now. When I get finished, we're going to go straighten that out, right? When the kids are a hot mess, when, family members are not feeling well, when I'm dealing with whatever I'm dealing with on my job, because life never ceased to exist. It doesn't. But you have to give yourself what you need. This is what we've been talking about. The same thing, the same way I coach my clients, the reason why I'm able to coach them is because I've been through it. I walk myself through this journey every day. And I keep getting better and better and better. But things keep coming. And as things keep coming, the only thing you keep doing is keep walking through it. Not around it. Try that. Nervous breakdown. Okay? Through it. Through it. With little steps. Little guided pieces. Just to help me keep going along the way every day. It's not easy. I'm emotional. I cry. I take my time and do what I need to do. Most times I'm crying, to be very honest with you, when I'm meditating in prayer and I'm just saying thank you. Thank you for having the strength to be able to do it all. To be there. To have the knowledge to know that my ex-husband should not be my enemy. We have souls we're raising up. How do you raise children to be productive members of society with an enemy? Like, no. And granted, yes, I have to be, it took work for both of us, right? He's a forgiving soul as well as I am, right? So we both had to work on each other. I'm not saying that, can't be one-sided. I get it. But it was me initiating it. So this is the way it's going to be. And we worked through that. So through it all, I kept growing. Through it all, I kept finding resources. Through it all, I kept giving myself what I need to keep building me every step of the way. And with the time when I had my nervous breakdown, the reason why I always say, if you can find, something to help you get through that second, then the minute, then the hour, and you made it through the day. So when I had my breakdown, that's all I had. I was like, I gotta get to the next second. I gotta breathe. Getting to the next second. Then it was the minute. Then it was an hour. And before I knew it, I got to the next day because I didn't know if I was, right? So everything that I come and I bring you here, everything that we talk about, everything that I coach through, it's not something I just started yesterday. This has been years of a journey. And if I can just, if it's one woman, if it's one young girl, hell, if it's even one dad that can see this and learn how to walk through this and how to guide through this, especially if you're parents, and help you facilitate better for these souls that you're responsible for, then it's all worth it for me. It was all worth it for me. All the pain, all the suffering, every ounce of it. If I can just help one. That's how I got here. So just know I'm not one of those life coaches that come and don't have certain real life experiences to get to this point. I'll have some very real life experiences. And before I end this video, I kind of want to honor my sons. And I'm going to tell you that, the first pictures are going to be very sensitive for those of you who watch the video. They're going to be sensitive. So if you find, because I am very sensitive to certain things and it draws my emotions in, if you find that either you're a sensitive soul, I would say maybe, at this point, maybe stop here. So I will say to you, if you have any questions or anything, reach out to me at mosassfitness at gmail.com, Moessass fitness at gmail.com. But if you're not a sensitive soul and you think you can kind of walk through this, next phase, I want to share my first son with you. So his name was, look at it, I could feel the emotion, Kenneth Allen McCoy. So how did we get that name? My brother's name was Kenneth. His my ex-husband's name was Paul, and his middle name was Allen. Right? So it's Allen, and then our last name McCoy. And the thing is, my last two kids, Cameron and Kamora, they actually got their name because of him, because I took the KAM and made their names. But this is my Kenneth, and that's him. Such a small little thing. That was him. I had him at 6 months old. Uh, just back then, just being honest with you, when I lost him, because I really didn't know how to feel or do any, know what to do. Um, I didn't handle that. I just kind of tried to move on, if that makes sense. I didn't really heal with that until with Kenneth until a lot later. Just to be very transparent, back that, because he was born in 98. I just thought the best way to do was just move on, right? Because my mother always had this thing, just get over it, get over it, move on, get over it, get over it, right? So I came from that kind of background. You just move on, get over it, right? Yeah, okay. Um, that didn't work. So that's him. And then this was our oldest son. So that's Sahad. This is he was an artist. So that was one of the pieces that when he was away, he had gotten in trouble. We got him in this like this art program or whatever. That was done, and that was him. So I just wanted to share a little bit of that with you. It was very rough this morning to come on. I didn't even want to do this. I was so in my head about it, the entire morning, to be honest with you. Even yesterday, I just was like, I don't know. But then I was like, you know what? Maybe they just need to understand and see this is real life. This stuff is happening. So yes, I'm very. It's a very vulnerable thing. It's a very vulnerable thing to share. But I know there's so many moms out there who've also lost their sons to gun violence. And I also know there's many moms out there that lost a child at birth. So just want you to know that you're not alone. There's going to be times you're going to know what to do, and there's going to be times when you don't know what to do. Um, just make sure that you reach out to somebody. You don't have to do it alone. I wouldn't recommend doing it alone. Um, but just I know that it takes time. Healing is hard. Feeling is hard. I think that's what it is for me. Like feeling it hurts the most because as parents, we want to be able to save our kids and save their, from everything. And the thought for me that I carried a lot of guilt for many years was like because in my mind I was working too much, and I went on a trip, uh, for a business trip, and I was so excited about my accolades with that trip. I thought when I came back and I lost my son that it was my fault because I was all about climbing the ladder or doing whatever I need to do to achieve that, right? And then, with my oldest son, when he passed away, I kind of was like, man, because he had always wanted to come to our house every single weekend. And then, I was like, oh, we were going to plan to take Christmas pictures, but then his dad had surgery. So I was like, nah, don't come up here this weekend because, they always clowning. And the amount of guilt that you feel, like maybe if he was here, right? I carried all of that for years, years. So when I say to you in the video, the hardest part is forgiving yourself, believe me when I tell you that's because I walked through that walk. So I hope that this video becomes a blessing. I hope that this podcast becomes, a help to someone that needs to hear that you are not alone. You are never alone. And that if you need help, there is help out there for you, whether it's through therapy, whether it's through a life coach, right? A therapist and coaches have very different perspectives on how they can deal with things. Like a lot of time, therapists can't share their personal. Most therapists don't. I happen to have a bomb therapist that really set the tone for me. Was like, listen, I've been through that, which helped me open up more. So, you have to find a therapist that is right for you. More life coaches were able to open up the way I am right now, right? And give our complete stories to say, I've been there. I've been there. Let's walk through this. Okay? And be able to give you the tips and the tools to help you, to help guide you to the side. Not do it for you because we can't, right? And a lot of times with people come and they're seeking these answers and they want the therapist to tell them, and the answers doesn't come from the therapist. They don't even really come from me. They come from inside of you. So it's using the tools and the tips that we have to help pull that out of you. Okay. But sometimes having someone with shared alike stories does help with that, because you feel like, okay, wow, she's been through that, right? Well, help me. How did you get to that point? What did you do to get to the other side? So again, I just really hope that this is a blessing to each and every person who hears this, and feel free to pass it along to anyone that you know that needs to feel normal today, needs to know that they're not alone. I thank you for listening. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Sunday, and I will talk to you next week.